Gonna continue with this name just to continue the lesson, you know, what I'm trying to present. So I'm gonna go right into where we left off in the first video because we got a lot of time to, you know, take advantage of and cover. So as we were reading, we were starting to see how this was reaching into Christianity, how these Hermetic teachings, these teachings from Chem or Egypt, right, alchemy, chemistry, were influencing the first early Christians. Before they were Christians, of course, they were following the Hellenistic gods and the other gods from Rome, and the Greek gods, the Egyptian gods, and these were all epithets we saw most of them of Thoth. So it says here, Chris Fordoy, the Good Shepherd. So Thoth was all over the place. He had a lot of names. So what does it say here? Let's read. It says free standing 4th century CE Roman sculpture, and even 3rd century ones are sometimes identified as Christ, the Good Shepherd. So sometimes, not saying that it is Christ. Okay, so remember, we're talking about Criofori, the Good Shepherd. Illustrating the pericope in the Gospel of John, and also the 2nd century Christian literary work, The Shepherd of Hermes. In two-dimensional art, Hermes Criophoros transformed into Christ, carrying a lamb and walking among his sheep. So Hermes, aka Thoth, Hermes Criophoros, another epithet of Hermes, which is Thoth, transformed into the Christ, carrying a lamb and walking among his sheep. Thus we find philosophers holding scrolls, or a Hermes Criophoros, which can be turned into Christ given the law, and it's called Traditio Legis. Look this up. And the Good Shepherd, respectively. Peter and Linda Murray, the Oxford Companion to Classical Art and Architecture, page 475. The Good Shepherd is a common motif from the catacombs of Rome, Gardner 10, figure 54, and in sarcophagus reliefs where Christian and pagan symbolism are often combined. Again, let's read that again. The Good Shepherd is a common motif from the catacombs of Rome, and in sarcophagus reliefs where Christian and pagan symbolisms are often combined. Christian and pagan symbolisms are often combined. Okay, this is what we started to see at the end of the first video. We're going to continue with this. We're going to see how this expands and creates all the other religions and all the other mystery schools, whatever they call them, what I want to call them, making secure identifications difficult. You hear that? Making secure identifications difficult. The theme does appear in the wall paintings of the baptistery of the Dura Euphoros Church. If you remember from the first video what church that was, a house church of Dura Euphoros was before 256 CE and more familiar in the 6th century Christian mosaics, as in the mausoleum of Gallia Placidia at Ravenna. And there is a famous freestanding sculpture said to be about 300 AD and made for a Christian in the Vatican museums. So you see the Good Shepherd, which originated from Hermes. We also see that the god Mitra is portrayed holding a lamb or a ram. Hermes, the ram bearer. Hermes is Criophoros, the ram bearer. And the shepherd, he was considered the shepherd, and this is where we get the shepherd. Again, etymology online, Thoth, right? Ancient Egyptian god of wisdom and magic, hieroglyphics, and the reckoning of time. From Latin and from Greek, Thoth. From Egyptian, Tehuti, usually represented as a human figure with the head of an ibis. We remember that from part 1. By the Greeks, assimilated to their Hermes. So he's Hermes, Thoth is Hermes, and we just read who Hermes is, right? Criophoros, the Good Shepherd, one of his epithets. We talked about other epithets in the first video. We're going to talk a lot about other ones in this video. So it says here under Thoth, Hermetic. 1630s, dealing with the occult science or alchemy. Occult science or alchemy. Occult science or alchemy. You're hearing that, right? From Latin, Hermeticus. From Greek, Hermes, god of science and art, among other things. Among other things, you hear that? He's many other things, who was identified by Neoplatonist mystics and alchemists with the Egyptian god Thoth as Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great Hermes or Trinity, who supposedly invented the process of making a glass tube airtight, a process in alchemy using a secret seal, hence completely sealed. And who does all this stuff, man? Alright, so you see where it was influenced. Now again, I'm just doing a little bit of recap of the first video so we can continue on the second video. So again, we're talking about Hermetic and occult science and alchemy. You just read that, right? So Hermetism is a religious, philosophical, and esoteric tradition based primarily upon writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, who we just saw was Thoth. These writings have greatly influenced the Western esoteric tradition, greatly influenced, and were considered to be of great importance during both the Renaissance and the Reformation. Okay, considered to be of great importance during both the Renaissance and the Reformation. Are you hearing this? Okay, this is Wikipedia, and they have the numbers there, so you can look up the sources, how this is written in history books or in documents recorded. The tradition claims descent from Prisca Theologia, a doctrine that affirms the existence of a single true theology that is present in all religions and that was given by God to man in antiquity. Present in all religions. Okay, you see the influence of remembering. Part 1, right? Let's go. And again, many writers, including Lactantius, Cyprian of Carthage, Augustine, Marsilio Ficino, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, Giordano Bruno, Campanella, Sir Thomas Browne, and Ralph Waldo Emerson considered Hermes Trismegistus to be a wise pagan prophet who foresaw the coming of Christianity. Of course he foresaw it. Setting it up, man. Okay, like, you're hearing this, right? Wise pagan prophet. He was a pagan prophet, but he was wise, right? But he was pagan. Still, he was a prophet who foresaw the coming of Christianity. St. Thomas Aquinas reported that Trismegistus arrived at something akin to the doctrine of the Trinity. Who started the doctrine of the Trinity? Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great, or Thoth, right? Trinity. Thoth, we'll see how he was influencing this from way before the Hellenistic period in Greek. He was doing it back in Egypt, ancient Egypt, with Osiris, Isis, and Horus, the Trinity, and even back before that in Samaria and Mesopotamia. Alright, as you can see. So the Trinity is very influenced by Thoth and his different epithets, like St. Thomas Aquinas reported. It's akin to the doctrine of the Trinity. Alright, yeah, and let's not forget where Hermes Trismegistus gets his name. It says here, continuing, an account of how Hermes Trismegistus received the name thrice great is derived from the emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Now we know from the first video who also has a famous emerald tablet, right? It's Thoth, right? Blue jade type of indestructible rock, right? If you Google it, you'll see. And now we're gonna talk a little bit about it again. But it says that wherein it states that he knew the three parts of the wisdom of the whole universe. The three parts of the wisdom are alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. If you look at those three individually, research what they mean, you'll see what was influencing the early mystery schools and the religions we see today. So again, the many forms or epithets or personalities of Thoth or this deity. Thoth goes by many names which many people know but do not know where the name comes from. It says here there are many occult groups that practice under Thoth. And it says Thoth, Greek, Tehuti, Egyptian, Kemetic, African. Other names that Tehuti, Thoth go by throughout history says Hermes in Greek, their mythology version of Tehuti. It says Mercury for the Romans, their mythology version of Hermes and Tehuti. Then it says Tehuti, Thoth plays a very important role in ancient Egyptian Kemetic religions. Now we're going to start getting into all this like bird symbology and how it surrounds Thoth and the many epithets he has and the peacock and all these different kind of birds. But the first one we hear about or read about is the ibis, as it says here. The ibis, or attributes moon magic. Moon, again, Thoth was considered the deity of the moon before he was considered all the rest of the things they gave him, like for wisdom, math, astrology, writing. And it says deities: Hermes, Mercury, Rubanga, Thoth, and Jah. Here goes Jah again. Look at the etymology of Jah. You'll see what that means. And Iblis, it says here. This is the Islamic name for Satan and is referred to as the god of despair.